Hi, Elva. If you want to just add in your the subject that you're studying and what year you're in into the chat, that would be great. And Emma as well, who's just joined, welcome. If you just want to type in the year of study and the subject that you're studying, that would be fantastic. Just to let everybody know, we are recording this session so we can share it on the YouTube channel afterwards. And I'm going to kick off. I'm sure some other people might join a little bit late, but we'll start now. So I'm Eduardo Lees. I'm the Global Opportunities Manager here at Goldsmiths. Thanks very much for coming along to listen to this talk on the University of Amsterdam Summer Schools. Delighted to also welcome Ian from Amsterdam, who's going to give you an insight into the different opportunities available at the University of Amsterdam, and there are some really fantastic summer schools, so we're really excited to promote these. We had a lot of students taking part in the virtual summer schools last year, and I think there's really all of them kind of reported how beneficial they were and how interesting they were. So yeah, excited to share these with you. Just for the people who've just joined, please do share the kind of what you're studying and your year of study in the chat. That would be really helpful. And just to let everybody know that we are recording this session so that we can share it on the YouTube channel afterwards and people can watch afterwards. So just to give you an overview of what we'll be talking about, I'm just going to kick off with a few slides. The benefits of international experience, an overview of government funding. Today we're talking specifically about funding to support with summer schools abroad, and in particular the University of Amsterdam summer schools, and then I'll hand over to Ian and he can give you details on those summer schools, and then we'll talk a little bit about applying both directly to Amsterdam and also for the funding from our end as well. Yeah, and hopefully we should I'll probably be speaking for about half an hour, but if you have chats, if you have any questions, please ask them in the chat. That would be great, and we can try and respond to them as they come along. So, I mean, the fact that you're all here, hopefully you already understand the benefits of international experience, but just to reiterate these, studying or working abroad or doing a virtual global opportunity does give you an experience of different work and academic styles and environments. We've seen from the students that we've supported in the past that international experience improves self-confidence and independence. I know that from my own experience of Erasmus and kind of studying and working abroad. The virtual study and work options also really help with digital skills to succeed in the international workplace, and we've seen that from students who completed the summer schools last year and remote internships, for example. International experience builds greater intercultural awareness and communication skills, and also builds future kind of networks for future collaboration, which both in terms of work or study, but also just in terms of having people to go and visit in other countries, which is a massive benefit, I have to say. And personally, I know that, and having done quite a lot of recruitment in my career, when I see that someone has international experience on their CV, it really does make that application stand out for me. I can already anticipate that they probably will have some good communication skills, have developed some intercultural awareness from having to adapt to the different kind of study and work styles. So all really positive things to as why you should consider studying or working abroad. Just to give a quick overview, and I'm actually only going to talk about the study funding in this session, but just to give you a quick overview of the global opportunity. Goldsmiths support students to study at a partner university for a term, and Amsterdam University is a partner for apartments. If you want to study for a term, you can also consider that. We support students to complete work abroad in Europe for 2 to 3 months. The one we're going to focus on today is studying abroad for 2 months or less over the summer, and we also support students to do virtual global opportunities, which we'll also cover today in terms of the virtual summer schools. Just a note on coronavirus and Brexit. We do hope the coronavirus situation, fingers crossed, is improving, and so we do hope to be able to support students to gain international experience in person this summer. So some things to bear in mind for that to happen, though. All placements must have coronavirus processes in place to manage health and safety. There must be approval from the UK's Foreign Office and to allow travel to the country. And so, for example, if a placement was happening if a placement was happening right now, we would not be able to approve it because there is still a travel ban from the UK. But once that's lifted for certain countries, that should allow us to support study and work abroad. That will also allow you to get appropriate insurance cover. You must have insurance cover to cover while you're abroad, including covering kind of coronavirus. Potential impact of coronavirus. And so with this in mind, we're only supporting travel after the 1st of July, and we will only approve those placements by the 1st of June. So that's something to bear in mind in the application process. So activities will only happen after the 1st of July in terms of in-person study abroad. And you'll have to sign up to a code of conduct in relation to kind of agreeing with these terms and conditions around coronavirus as well. The other thing to bear in mind is following the UK's departure from the European Union, there are potentially new immigration requirements for entering into countries in Europe from the UK. So do bear that in mind as well. And I'm not sure of the specifics for the Netherlands, but if there is anything, Ian, maybe that you know, then do share. But otherwise, we can kind of guide students in the build-up anyway. So what we're talking about today are international summer schools in Amsterdam, and this is one of the opportunities that we support. So international study abroad of under 2 months. We have funding from Goldsmiths and from Santander universities to support students to study abroad for up to 2 months over the summer. Students find your own placement, and today's talk we're obviously sharing a potential opportunity that would be really good for students to do and for you to apply for funding for. Our funding is open to all part-time and full-time undergraduate and postgraduate students, including third-year students who are graduating this year, so that's fine for this summer. Our funding is available for worldwide, which includes the Netherlands, and all students can apply for up to £500, and if you meet our widening participation criteria, you can apply for up to £1,500 to support with the cost of the placement. In terms of in-person placement requirements, they must be linked to future career or study. The programme must have a structured programme of activity and must be hosted by an organisation, must be outside of the UK and not in your home country if you're an international student, and there must be policies in place to manage the risk of coronavirus. And if you are going away in person, they must take place from the 1st of July. I've mentioned that already. We also offer funding to support with virtual global opportunities, again funded by Santander universities and Goldsmiths, and this really gives you the opportunity to build your skills from home. If you aren't able to leave the UK or your home country at this particular point in time, or you don't feel comfortable, in particular around the coronavirus situation, then this could be something to consider. Opportunities to study or work virtually, but with a kind of international engagement. And one important point to note is that all virtual global opportunities should involve interacting virtually with participants from across the world. This is why the summer schools at Amsterdam are so fantastic. You really meet with lots of other students from around the world, but you're also learning from a world-class institution, getting access to a kind of a different education system. So these really do fit into our kind of virtual global opportunities criteria. Again, all students can apply for up to £500 to support with the placement fees, and up to, if you meet our widening participation criteria, then you can apply for up to £1,500 to support with the placement fees. And with whereas if I think someone could go on, that would be, I can hear some going to pause. Whereas in-person placements can only happen from the 1st of July, virtual global opportunities can happen anytime from the 27th of March to the 30th of September. So there's a kind of larger period of activity there. Just to share with you the widening participation criteria, which allows applicants to apply for additional funding. You must have lived in the UK 3 years prior to the start of your undergraduate studies, and then you must meet one of the following criteria to apply for this additional funding. It's a long list, so I won't read it all out, but do have a look on our webpage, and if you have any questions around this, then do contact us. I think that's all from me. So Ian, I'll hand over to you to talk in more detail about the Amsterdam summer schools. I will stop presenting so you can start presenting if that's helpful. And yeah, I'll mute myself and hand over to you.
Great, thank you so much, Eduardo. Can you hear me okay? Thumbs up. All right, perfect. I will share my presentation here and then we'll get going as well. All right, perfect. Can everyone, can we see everything okay? I can't in presentation mode see, maybe I can see the chat. Let's see how this goes here. Minimize that, make that bigger. Nice, you're all back again, fantastic. Hi everyone, thanks Eduardo for the introduction. My name is Ian. I work at the University of Amsterdam in the Summer Programs Office, specifically in the Graduate School of Social Sciences. I don't have a Dutch accent because I'm a Canadian. I moved to the Netherlands about 6 years ago to do a research master degree there. So like Eduardo, I can definitely speak to the benefits of study abroad, as I'm sure many of you can as well, probably why you're here, interest in this. And definitely to the interesting and kind of particular education environment that we have at the University of Amsterdam. So prior to moving to the Netherlands, I worked at a university in Canada as well. And I did my degree here at the Amsterdam School of Cultural Analysis, where I'm also a PhD candidate. So in the Netherlands, we have lots of, sometimes we wear lots of hats and play many different roles. So that's a little bit more about me. If you have questions throughout directly related to something that I've just said, then you can feel free to drop it in the chat. But also we can do a more general Q&A session later when I'm done my brief presentation, probably away from or off recording, so that, yeah, so that we can answer all of your questions. All right, so yeah, let's get started. I wanted to talk to you about a couple of different summer program options that we have at the UvA, the University of Amsterdam, but first maybe a little bit more about the university broadly. So the University of Amsterdam was founded in 1632. Here you see a beautiful photo of our city from above. Really is ringed by canals. There's water everywhere and tons of green space. So it is an ideal place to live and study. In the city itself, but the University of Amsterdam is also quite a special institution. It is known for its free thinking and left-leaning environment for sure. It's a global top 100 university, somewhere around position 50 in the different rankings, depending on the year and the programs, of course. And our faculties and metropolitan campuses are really located throughout the city. Thankfully, Amsterdam's quite small, and I'm sure most of you know the, the stereotypical image of people biking everywhere, and that really is the case. University campuses are close to absolutely everything and really part of the fabric of the city. Universities in the Netherlands are publicly funded institutions. Yeah, so you'll find them next to primary schools or just down the street from where people live. And we all kind of inhabit the same place together. So I think Amsterdam's got a very particular and quite exciting vibe, and it's always best enjoyed in the summer, that's for sure. So our summer programs, you can see in the photo here, this is the campus that we run our summer programs at. That's the Reuters Island campus located in Amsterdam East. Well, still the center, but technically the East. We've been running programs at the university for over 25 years in a really wide variety of topics. And every year we add more on and grow kind of our areas of expertise and the people that we work with also. We make courses directly with our team of academics. So I'm also a program coordinator and I manage about 10 of our 30 programs. And we really work on everything from the curriculum development, admissions, marketing, all the way right up to the classroom itself. And we work a lot with local organizations as well on a wide variety of topics. For instance, our program on the circular city, which is about sustainability and kind of closing supply loop chains. We can talk more about those programs later. We work with a local organization called Metabolic, and they're actually one of the world's leading kind of circular and sustainable consultancy agencies right now. So there's a lot of activity and knowledge in Amsterdam. It's always been that way since the printing press. It's definitely been a kind of hub of knowledge. And we really like to utilize that as much as possible in our both online and on-campus courses as well. So you'll see that up there on my third point. We are offering programs on campus tentatively this summer, and I'll get more to that later. And we've also moved about 2/3 of our programs online. We offer typically short, intensive courses that are really deep dives into topics that you don't normally get offered in the regular curriculum. And we do that because summer programs are often the perfect opportunity to immerse yourself in something really quickly, whether in a kind of a boot camp environment, where you can really delve deeply into a topic. And that's really helpful for people who are either looking to try something new or add a nice capstone onto their degree, or be introduced to a topic that they wouldn't otherwise get to confront. So that's our kind of educational model there, which is why we have quite a wide variety of different courses. Here I've listed our online programs for 2021. I just wanted to start with those. And we have a really wide variety. We have lots of experience over the last year offering both summer and winter programs online. And every time we tweak and we learn from what we experienced, and great student participation and feedback, and we try and finesse it even more. So I'll just pull a couple, well, this list here. We have 2 programs on sexuality studies, 1 advanced 4-week program for people who maybe already have a degree or most of a degree in that field. It's a little more on the professional or higher level side. But we also have an Introduction to Sexuality Studies program. One of the first ones in the world was started here by our office at the UVA, and that's also since been rolled into the regular curriculum. So summer programs really are a bit of an incubator and Kickstarter for regular education here in the Netherlands, and we use them that way as well. Some of the best ideas come from these meetings of minds from people from all over the world. We have courses on branding, building brands and influencing behavior from a social sciences and business perspective combined. A new course this year is on epidemics and social science, a holistic approach. So if there's anyone in here who has a social science or maybe even a hard science background or interest, that course will also welcome people from the World Health Organization and a bunch of different nonprofit organizations as well, to kind of give a different perspective on disease treatment and prevention. As I mentioned, Introduction to Sexuality Studies, a long-running course of ours, and another one too, Migration and Integration, Refugees, Rights and Realities. This is, of course, interdisciplinary studies from both legal and political science perspective, and doesn't just ask questions about immigration, but really ask questions about how we live together broadly and how we plan for futures based on kind of like the unpredictable circumstances that we find ourselves in, not just historically, but in the present. Courses range from online courses are all 2 weeks long, except for that Summer Institute on Sexuality. That's the only 4-week course that we have, because it's actually a combination of 2 2-week courses that have been put together. Another newcomer this year is a course of ours on multilateralism, globalization, and corporate diplomacy. A lot of words that may mean nothing to you, but all together, multilateralism is the idea of working together. It's something, of course, happens at a supranational level, like at the United Nations, or even in other sorts of blocks of countries that come together. But it's also used in a wide variety of other circumstances, and really is, I would say, ultimately the way forward for diplomacy and governing in a highly globalized world. We also have an intro course on political economy, which really dives deeply into both political science and economics and how the two are twinned together, certainly in how we all live our lives. I'm sure students, you definitely know and understand that. We're also offering a couple new courses this year on social science perspectives. So one is the social science switch course that will actually start in the autumn, in October, something new that we're trying this year. In collaboration with the Department of Anthropology at the university. And another course, which is a 2-week boot camp on ethnography and design. So for people who have a background in social sciences research, 1 methods course or 2, this will really be a good way to kickstart your kind of transition from university life into career or doing ethnography as well in workplace settings. We also have our Summer Institute on Addiction, which is a long-running course, also for people with a little more experience maybe and a little more study in psychology, for instance. And we also welcome another course that was a big success over the last year, this Visions of the Occult, an introduction to Western esotericism. So the format of our online programs is roughly the same for all of them, though of course we do leave room for each person and each academic to create the course really to fit their needs and the topic at hand. So our online summer programs are all 2 weeks long, and we combine both live study sessions, so they're typically discussion-based, quite active. That's really how we do education here in the Netherlands. A lot of interaction between people and learning from each other. And those will also be balanced out with pre-recorded knowledge clips and guided self-study, as well as some expert guest lecturers. So we know that if you come and study with us in the summer, that if you're doing an online course, you may have other things going on. So we want to make it as approachable as possible. So you can meet people and have these live sessions that really help tease out the relationships between things and get to the heart of a topic, but that also a lot of the key knowledge can be delivered in an innovative way online. So that you can watch it at your own speed throughout those 2 weeks. The fees for our courses, and I'll get to that down at the bottom of this page, include all of the materials for the sessions, individual feedback on your assignments. It's also something we're very big on, and access to all of the university's digital systems. So also quite nice to have another university library. So if you do come and join us, I would definitely peruse that because, yeah, you have a student ID and are kind of a University of Amsterdam student for the duration of the summer. And our 4 credit courses, so all of our courses offer academic credits through the European Credit Transfer System. So ECs are how we refer to them in shorthand. You have to check with your own home university about how credits are transferred back, but we provide syllabi, and if you complete all of the academic components of a course, also a transcript at the end with a grade and a statement of the Dutch grading system. Our courses are all run at the Graduate School of Social Sciences, and the transcripts are also issued from the Graduate School. So if you're a bachelor student, it's no problem as well. The courses typically transfer pretty well into bachelor's programs. And for those of you that are master's students, they're all taught also at that level. We don't make a distinction directly in admissions between bachelor's and master's students. Courses on the website, and that's on my very last slide, which has the full course catalog, we'll say, who is this program for? That's really who the course is designed for, but not necessarily limiting the range of applications. So if you see something that you're really interested in, you can always email us and ask, but I would just recommend that you apply. The price for our summer courses, for 2-week online courses, are, most of them, the vast majority, are 750 euros, and 2 of them are 1,000. Those are the more professional programs, and the ones where we have to bring in more expert guest lecturers. I know that Goldsmiths offers some scholarships. We also offer a couple. Ours are in a little more short supply, though, because the pool of applicants typically numbers in the hundreds every year. So I would definitely make use of funding from your own university if you can, but also if that's not available to you, you can, of course, apply for some of our scholarships, and I'll get to those later as well. For those of you that are interested in on-campus programs, we really use the city as our living laboratory. So the photo, maybe I'll just go back quickly. This is at the NDSM wharf. These are old shipyards in the north of Amsterdam that are now being turned into like a really booming community and housing project. They have ateliers and all sorts of things. We really like to go into the city and learn by doing. There's really a wide variety of things that you can see in Amsterdam. For a long time, it's been the center of a lot of interesting social movements, and definitely has that kind of not just startup spirit, but also maybe sometimes goes against the grain of what other cities do. So it is a really fascinating place to be. This summer, we've decided to tentatively run 6 of our programs on campus. And I say tentative because applications are currently open. And if you're interested, I would advise you to apply as soon as possible because the application deadline for on-campus courses is 1 April. We have the application deadline so early because we want to get a real idea of who's interested to take our courses. Then within the coming month after that, we'll review all of the admissions and make those decisions. And then we'll get in touch with everyone who's applied with the next steps. We hope in the beginning of May to be able to make a final decision, and knock on wood, but trends are looking better for being able to welcome people on campus this summer. But it won't be up to our office individually or the University of Amsterdam. This is a decision that's made at a national level here in the Netherlands because we're such a small country. But you can read all of the updates on our website. So I'm also our website coordinator, and we update that all the time with valid information. The courses that we're offering on campus this summer, we have 5 urban studies courses, and one of them is our mindfulness and compassion-based intervention course. I will say, if the mindfulness course cannot run on campus, then we will offer it as a 2-week online course. But all of our on-campus programs are 3 weeks long. Primarily here, this urban studies courses, the first one in placemaking, sense, space, and strategy. This is really a new methodology in urban studies. It's about citizen and bottom-up interventions and interactions with city spaces, and also how we sense cities through our senses, so that every city has its own sensescape, including smells, sights, sounds, and all sorts of things that factor into how we experience the urban environment. This is really important, particularly for making new housing developments, new neighborhoods, as our cities continue to grow. And as we see that by 2050, about 70% of the Earth's population will live in urban environments. We also offer a very typical course for us, this Planning the Cycling City program. For any of you that are really cycling freaks or nerds or really interested in maybe urban studies or transport from this kind of inclusive perspective, this is a really popular program. It's basically a deep dive into how the Netherlands and Amsterdam became the cycling capital of the world, but not just staying in the past and how we got to where we are, but also where we're going in the future, and how you can learn from these best practices and really this kind of network of alumni and teachers who can help you implement these sorts of policies where you live as well. This course also invites a lot of professionals to it as participants. So if you do apply and you are admitted, chances are you'll also be meeting with someone who works in Mexico City as part of the urban planning department or something like that. And we believe that this kind of cross-pollination between bachelors, masters, and professionals brings knowledge exchange, as far as it can come. So you can expect to have a wide variety of different sorts of participants, not just where they're from, but really also what level they're at in their study or where they're at in their life. We're also offering a course this summer called Power to the People, Activism and Grassroots Organizing. For those of you that are really interested in social movements, and I think that's certainly something that is very important in the present, then I can highly recommend this course. We'll touch on pretty much every present social movement, but we'll also look at really particular ones, both past and present, that have found their place in Amsterdam. So from the Occupy movements, which were global, to much more local protest movements, people who are living in squats and things like that as well. Amsterdam has a really liberal culture in that sense, and there's a deep history there with this sort of citizen interaction and the right to rule. The other course that I mentioned earlier, The Circular City Towards a Sustainable Urban Ecosystem, asks us to totally rethink how we look at our local economies and also on a global level. If you think that economies are based on a linear basis with inputs on one side and outputs or waste products on the other, that could be anything from energy to food, what have you. And in the circular city, we asked to close those supply chains. So how can things that we normally think of as waste or byproducts, from everything from building to eating, how can those be reused in different contexts to make our cities more sustainable places to live for the future? Of course, also goes through climate proofing and a wide variety of things. So definitely one of the most important topics for the coming years. And then also for those of you that think, well, I'm interested in urban studies, but I'd like to be more oriented in it broadly, then we have our standard course, Planning and Living in Cities. It really goes through absolutely everything, the history of the world's most developed cities. And one could argue that Amsterdam has the oldest tradition of urban planning in Europe, at least. Extensions to the canal rings and things like that have been made since the early 1200s, and certainly wide-scale city planning since 1530. So lots to learn from there. And I'll talk briefly about our application and admission criteria. So as I mentioned before, on-campus programs, you have to apply to those by 1 April. However, online programs, we're leaving open for admission until 1 May. But every single admission that we do this year is a rolling admissions deadline. So that means you could apply tomorrow and you'll receive a response back from our office, typically within a week. We're doing it this way so that we can really see who's interested in the courses, and we have spaces, spaces are limited. Online courses are capped at 24 people, and on-campus courses will also have to follow social distancing and safety measures at the university as well if they're able to go forth. So we'll also have smaller numbers there too. So if you are interested in coming to study with us, even if you haven't fully made up your mind yet, I would definitely recommend submitting an application as soon as possible. Even if it's for an online course and the deadline seems farther away, because some of the programs are already quite popular and we have had quite a few applications for some of them. But there are still spaces remaining in all of them. So that's good news for sure. And I would just like to highlight that, we ask for standard admissions documents, a transcript. This could also be an unofficial one, so from a printout of your grades list in your own university study portal, things like that. A letter of motivation. And the letter of motivation is really the most important part for us. Each program has its own admissions prompt, and we ask you to answer that in 400 to 500 words. It's a great way for you to let us know why you're interested in the course, what motivates you to study it, and how you think that it fits into your life, either as a step in a new direction, or as I said earlier, as kind of a capstone or kind of deeper dive into something that you're already passionate about. That is the most important part of the application for our office. We don't have English as a second language requirements or other things like that. Those tests are often a bit iffy anyway. And so we like to really see and get to know more of who you are through the letter. I personally assess, I would say, about 50% of the admissions that come through our office, and so does my colleague Charlotte as well. So we're always there on the other end, actual people here to review your applications. And quickly, I'll touch on scholarships. The following 2 scholarships, I don't think anyone's an alumni of ours as in a summer school alumnus, but if you were to study with us this summer, keep in mind in the future that you could also join us for a discounted rate in the future. But we also have this travel grant, and I know that it seems silly to have a travel grant for online courses when in theory you aren't going anywhere. But I do think the reality is that you get quite a lot out of an online course, and we're able to secure this funding through the university. So if you can demonstrate financial need in order to follow the program of your choice, then you can also apply for that €250 tuition reduction scholarship. So it'll cover about 1/3 of the fees for online courses. Before we get to the Q&A, I just wanted to mention one other thing briefly, which is I'm sure that lots of you are maybe tired with studying online, and I can understand that. But really the highlight of my year so far has been January this year, when we ran our 2-week winter courses and welcomed 75 participants in 5 courses from really all over the world. Everyone participated in really remarkable ways and brought a lot of their own personal circumstances with them. And we could really study topics that people are passionate about. Also, if finances are important to you, and if you are on a budget like most students are, I will be honest that our programs have never been more affordable than they are now due to the online nature of them. So we did significantly reduce fees. We made them as low as possible, so that participants, so there'd be as few barriers to coming and studying one of our online courses as possible. That's everything from me from the official side, and you can also read everything at our website here. That's www.summerschool.uva.nl. Pretty simple. And you can also follow us on any of these social media channels. If you use Instagram, I would particularly recommend that one. We have a ton of interviews and small knowledge clips and things like that there. We've been working really hard in the last year to create free content as well. So I would urge you to follow us, and you can always get in touch with me directly by sending an email to summer-info-gSSS@uva.nl with any questions that you have. So yeah, we typically respond within 24 hours. We'd be happy to hear from you.
Ian, thanks very much for that presentation and for taking the time to join us today. And I want to apply for them all. They sound amazing. Just to reiterate that the students who took part last year had amazing feedback for the courses and really did enjoy them and got so much out of them. So I can't encourage the people on this call enough to apply. Just before we go to the Q&A, I was just going to share a couple more slides in terms of the support from our side. There are a couple of questions in the chat which we can maybe cover in the Q&A as well, Ian, around kind of how many courses students can apply for. And then Aliyah will come back to your question around kind of which order to apply for things as well. But let me just bring back the slides from my side for a second. But yeah, thank you so much again for that presentation, and the courses sound really fantastic, I have to say. In terms of the funding from Goldsmiths, and it is really fantastic. As Ian said, please do apply for these courses at the University of Amsterdam as soon as possible if you're interested in doing them. From the point of view for Goldsmiths funding, it may be that you find out that you're on the Amsterdam course before you get funding confirmed from us. For the in-person courses, our application deadline is the 26th of April. So we wouldn't actually be confirming the outcome of applications until probably the 1st of June. And we can have an open conversation with Amsterdam and Ian at Amsterdam in terms of kind of final confirmations of places. But let me just skip to the right slide. But yeah, we can talk about that in a second. But just quickly around some additional support from Goldsmiths. In addition, if you do receive funding from Goldsmiths and you do go and undertake these opportunities, we also provide some additional support to students. So all students would have a pre-departure briefing where we talk through some of the things to think about, in particular if you're going in person. We have guidance, handbook and support information on our web pages to support students as well. We'll do a check-in during the activity to see how things are going. You can access all of the usual support services at Goldsmiths as well as those at Amsterdam, as Ian mentioned, and really fantastic point that I hadn't even thought about, the fact that you can access the library and other student services at Amsterdam. That is a real benefit. So and another real reason to apply for this opportunity. Where we aim to have a kind of returners or careers event once you've done the opportunity and the term after you've done it, so you can reflect on the skills that you've gained from your time abroad. And we also provide mental health support in terms of links to things to think about during your placement, ways to kind of build networks and to look for support if you need it. And the Goldsmiths Wellbeing team and the Global Opportunities team are here to support as well, as I'm sure there's support at Amsterdam as well. One thing to bear in mind, both virtual but in particular in person, is to think about kind of different identities or backgrounds abroad, and think about your identity and your background and kind of how that might impact on your time abroad and what kind of support you might need, or what are the attitudes in the destination you're going to. And it's really worth doing some research into that before you go, to think about them. For example, if you're from a particular religious background, what kind of places of worship might you need? If you have specific diets that you need, is there access to that in the location that you're going to? What are the attitudes towards, if you identify as LGBTQ+, for example, we have some kind of guidance on our website in terms of the attitudes, and we're happy to talk to students around, you know, if you have concerns around that, or if you just want to talk about that, then in our pre-departure briefing or on a one-to-one session, we can also talk about kind of attitudes towards different identities. So whether it's LGBTQ+ or race or different ethnicities or gender or religion, then you do think about that, but also do talk to us as well. And as Ian said, I mean, Amsterdam is a very liberal city with lots of different, I'm sure very similar to London in terms of lots of different identities and kind of groups of people and places to engage with different kind of ideas and identities. So I feel like it's an excellent city in terms of being welcoming, from my short experience of it, but also from what I've heard about the city. Just quickly, before we go into the Q&A, how to get involved. So as Ian said, please apply for the opportunities at Amsterdam as soon as possible, given the deadlines at their end. We, in terms of the motivation statement for Amsterdam, also happy for our team to support with, if you want to draft it and kind of talk to us about what you've put into that application form. Happy to talk that through with students. We also have some application guidance on our Go Abroad blog, which I'll share a link to in a second, which is worth looking at in terms of kind of thinking about how to put together a good application. Just to be clear, there will be 2 applications, one to the University of Amsterdam to get onto the course, and then one to Goldsmiths to get funding for the course. So those are 2 different applications. Doesn't really matter what order you do it, but I kind of suggest that you apply to Amsterdam first, given that the deadlines are earlier. But the funding application from our end for virtual global opportunities, we have rolling monthly deadlines. So we've actually already had one. We've already approved students for funding for activities. So apply as soon as possible for the virtual opportunities. The deadlines are on the 1st of each month. So definitely worth applying for that as soon as possible. And then for the in-person placements, the deadline is on the 26th of April. So there's just one application deadline, and it's the 26th of April. So do apply by that deadline. And the applications for funding from Goldsmiths are all on the Go Abroad website in the link there. And again, if you meet our widening participation criteria, there's increased funding available. In terms of whether you need to be accepted to apply for funding, no. There's a question in our application form that says, have you been accepted or not? You don't have to have been accepted. We do, if you have kind of evidence that you've applied, a kind of a confirmation of application or an email saying that you're eligible for applying, then that's helpful. But no, you don't have to have been accepted to apply for funding, but we won't give you any funding until you have been accepted, if that makes sense. And if you are struggling to pay some for the course up front, then we can also discuss that further, and we can talk to Ian about potentially approving your funding, transferring your funding, and then you paying Amsterdam afterwards, if that's an easier way. But yeah, I think we can talk a little bit more about that in a second. Just in terms of next steps from our side, I'd suggest sign up for our newsletter and our VLE, just for any updates from our side. Start researching, start looking at the summer schools. I've put a link into the chat there, and Ian already shared links. Get applying, read our Go Abroad blog. We've actually got a lot of blog posts from the Amsterdam summer schools from last year on there, so do have a look on there. Just quickly before I stop the recording and we can have an open Q&A, here's some further links in terms of an email address. If you want to get in touch with the team, then do email goabroad@gold.ac.uk. You can visit our website, yeah, the links to the sign up to the newsletter there. I'm also going to just share a link to an evaluation form for the talk. If you're happy to complete that, that would be fantastic. Just before, well, I think we'll go into a Q&A now, but I will stop the recording. But I just wanted to say before I stop the recording, a huge thank you to Ian for joining us. It's really been fantastic to kind of hear about the courses in more detail, very inspiring, and thank you for the University of Amsterdam for putting them on, because I think they really do give the students the international experience that we're trying to support. So it's fantastic. So thanks very much. I'm just going to stop the recording and then we can take some questions.